With over 400 celebrity interviews and tons of pop culture nerdiness, Too Opinionated is a safe haven for your inner geek. Find us at meistercon.com or on YouTube under MeisterCon Pod. And please subscribe. It would really help us out. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I get to welcome back our good friend of the podcast, Walter Esselman. He's got a new book. I think this is the third time we've had you on to talk about a book. And we've only been in existence 4 years. So you're putting out a lot of books. So welcome, Walter.
Hey, it's so great to be here. Thanks, Mike, again for allowing me on the show, and it's been a heck of a lot of fun.
You know, we're going to at some point, I'm going to go the Saturday Night Live route and start giving like smoking jackets out for people that return guests. So you're up to 3. So I don't know what the number is. Maybe 5. That's what they do for SNL. But then I'll send you a jacket.
I'd love a smoking jacket. That would be awesome. So
I don't smoke, but I'd wear the jacket if you sent it to. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be pretty.
A smoking jacket. If I could get a good cigar too. You know?
Well, you've got the facial hair for it, so you need the jacket. Yeah, and with a cigar, that'd be.
Yeah,
well, it's supposed to be like a cigar and some brandy, right? I don't drink brandy either, but you'd look cool.
I'm more of a whiskey.
So yeah, well, whiskey'd work. Whiskey'd work.
Good stuff. Yeah.
So, what was the first time you came on, which was a couple years ago? What was the book we talked about then? It was
SuperhorrorMax.
Oh, SuperhorrorMax. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So
and then last time was Liberty's Run.
Yep. Part 1.
Part 1.
Yeah. And
so what's this time? What's the book this time?
Cowboys versus Nazis. It's actually a novella. So to be fair, and it's about this cowboy from the 1879 who ends up going through, well, there's this tunnel with crystals, and who cares? You know, seriously, who cares? He ends up in 1944 Germany after D-Day, but before we had liberated the entire country, and runs into this young Jewish lady who's in trouble because of the Nazis. So, and he has to lend her a hand. Not that she isn't formidable in her own right, but everyone needs a hand.
I love this idea. Well. Is it just him, or did his horse come along?
Nope, his horse Lulu came along. Right. She won't accept any other name. He has tried, but you know. So here's Rowdy, who sheriff of the town of Wrongford with a horse named Lulu. So, which
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, what more could you want? Cowboys and Nazis? Come on.
If it was on Netflix or Shudder, I would bam.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I would tell my dad, because we were always watching movies. It's like, we have to watch this. I don't know what it's about, but Cowboys versus Nazis. So
yeah. What else do you need?
It doesn't go well for the Nazis. So rest assured.
To me, this like a novella, it sounds like the type of thing that could easily be adapted to a script.
I'm working on it. So I'm trying to, trying to expand it without, making it, and that's the thing. Sometimes you have too much meat on the bones. You have to figure out how to cut down. And sometimes you have to figure out how to make it fuller,
right.
And but you don't want just anything. So that's the thing. How can I expand the story and the characters, expand maybe the relationship between Sheriff Rowdy and the young Jewish girl, Hannah Goldman. So, and, to find out more about them,
Yeah.
And
where'd the idea come
from? Midway, the new one. What was it? 2000 something.
It's recent, last few years.
So So my friend Brian went to go see it, and the next Monday morning we're chatting about it, and it didn't do well. I follow I was following box office religiously,
Yeah.
in up including like even finding out what the budget is to see if the movie really was. And unfortunately, Midway kind of sunk, and seems like it was a perfectly good movie, so that's why I say that.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Um,
I went and watched it. I like army
yeah,
movies.
yeah. Well, the original Midway is, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um, but
Yes.
so we're talking about it, and I was like, it's really surprising that it didn't do better, because if there's two eras that Americans love, is World War II and cowboys, and my eyes glazed over. I was gone for an hour of work. I couldn't even do just, hello, where are you?
Can't
And,
talk
and
now.
I
Creating.
was just immediately, I put pen to paper. I listened to Ennio Morricone, uh, cowboy music, who wrote, for those who don't know, that he wrote all the music for the spaghetti westerns,
Yeah.
especially Fistful of Dollars, and for a few and Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So, and because I really wanted to. The funny thing is I knew so much about World War II. That was kind of easy, except for figuring out like what were Nazi German uniforms called. It's Feldgrau. Um,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know
and
either.
yeah, I mean, usually we just see people, Germans with a uniform and Lugers.
Right.
So, so it didn't take a ton of research to really. And I had grown up on westerns. My mom is a huge western. We're a Clint Eastwood family. So, and
Same.
we grew, yeah, yeah.
Clint
I
Eastwood,
mean,
John Wayne. Those are kind of Of course, my favorite western's Tombstone because it's so
oh
quotable.
wow.
It's newer,
Well,
but that's my favorite. My
uh,
dad's is McClintock. That's his favorite.
oh wow, favorite western. I never really kind of thought of it. Well, actually, one of the best westerns I've seen lately is Sisu. Just so you know.
Really?
That's a Finnish movie about this gold prospector who turns out to be this, tough son of a gun fighting Nazis. Really fun. A lot of blood.
Oh,
You need a fantasy layer. It's almost like a cartoon at times, but yeah.
I'll have to check
Um,
that one out.
yeah. So yeah, I kind of grew up on not on both World War II and cowboy movies. So putting them together was actually kind of really
Yeah.
uh, pretty easy. And I really, but I was. It's interesting because out of the research, Rowdy, the sheriff, he had been in Gettysburg. He had, he and the other orphan boy, he was orphaned in Philadelphia, and he and the other four of the other three or four of the other orphan boys joined the army. So, and he's the only one who made it out.
Yeah.
So there's this. It became, when I was telling someone about it, they were like, "Oh, I hope the Nazis end up in gruesome endings," and I kind of went, "Well, no, well, he doesn't have much time, so he's kind of on a schedule, They're, the Nazis have already taken people, and they're already trying to figure out, save them, and but also Rowdy is just, he's seen the worst, and he doesn't he doesn't try to hurt people if he doesn't have to.
That's right.
Like a good lawman, he the first time he sees them, who he thinks is Canadians, so who are holding Hannah to the ground. The first couple of Nazis, he's just like, uh, if you slap, as long as you don't slap iron, you're okay. And well, they slap iron. So.
Of course they do. Yeah. Did you consider using like an actual historical cowboy? Somebody
uh
like a Billy the Kid that supposedly disappeared. That type.
oh,
He
that's
could have
interesting.
disappeared and shown up in Nazi Germany, and that would solve the mystery.
Yeah. Oh, well, actually, yeah, that's interesting. That never really occurred to me. I kind of created, well, I knew it was, having grown up with Clint Eastwood, there's that is pretty much seeped into the whole character.
Yeah.
His kind of um sort of thing, but I also wanted to give nods to others. So he wears the lambskin vest, but he has a pink shirt because John Wayne had a pink shirt, and he has the white hat because good guys wear white.
That's right.
So and then I decided I wasn't going to do any more. Any more than that, it was going to just get silly. But those are the nods to the great westerns and the
Yeah, I
great
love
western
that.
heroes.
Is
And
it difficult to get a full story out in 67 pages or whatever it was?
um, you know, it was kind of the length that I think it needed to be.
Yeah.
So I didn't want it to, I was probably taking time from writing other books. So, I didn't even, I'm not even sure that I anticipated that it was going to be this long. I think it was, thinking more short story, but sometimes the story takes its own life and you're just like, okay, we're just going to be along for the ride. And, so I didn't plan it, but the story as is I think it's a good length for exactly what it is,
Yeah.
for he's in and out, and does his thing. So, and pretty much baffles a lot of people along the way because they're like, wait a minute, what is that a cowboy? There's some American soldiers, because not only the Nazis, but there's American soldiers, and then there's the Jewish people.
I mean, I
Um,
could see like that could totally be adapted into a series where you have
yeah,
him, working, in the future, basically our past, but his future, um,
yeah,
for the whole season. But then there'd be some comedy in that because it would be hilarious to run into people from that time and he's from 50 years in the past.
yeah. Well, and I actually kind of thought, I've thought of other stuff, Cowboys versus stories, because we really do need a good Cowboys versus Aliens that doesn't isn't
Yeah, that was disappointing, especially
meh.
with that cast. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, how the heck?
I mean, it
Anyway,
wasn't a disaster, but it was just okay.
no, yeah. Someone said don't remake the great movies, like don't remake Casablanca. Remake movies that had a great concept but didn't do well.
100% behind that. I'm
I want
100%.
to,
I
yeah,
totally agree with that.
yeah, I want to create a whole studio, second chances. So,
Yeah, he called Second Chance Studio done.
yeah, yeah. So that's,
Now,
I mean, that's
I
all
like that
part of.
idea that you might put him in a series. Would he bounce in other time periods?
Oh well, I don't know, because it would have to. I mean, it would probably be him and Hannah, because but it might happen actually more in
What
the
if he
old
tries to get
West.
back to the past but overshoots it and he ends up back in like the Revolutionary time?
Yeah, yeah, that's entirely possible. That this kind of thing could happen again. I don't want to rule it out,
Yeah.
but he might run into aliens or zombies or something like that first. I also don't
Have you
want
thought
to.
about crossing over some of your characters from the other books?
I'll, I don't know. My worlds tend to be fairly distinct.
Yeah, they do.
Um, and so I don't tend to cross pollinate. Within worlds, if it makes sense, I'll have characters being in that world, but most of them are kind of in this, like Liberty is kind of a very specific thing, and SuperhorrorMax is kind of a very specific thing, and Cowboys is, they're all in very specific worlds and universes.
My
So
my wife preferred Supermax. I was a Liberty's Run. I that was my favorite. They were both really excellent, but that was my favorite. But that was before you came out. Cowboys and Nazis. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, that was just one of those things you just think about it. You're like, it's always been the same title: Cowboys versus Nazis. You know,
Yeah, keep it
I had to,
simple because that's what's going to draw people in.
yeah, I had to add another cowboy, so there was Cowboys. So
Is there a German word for cowboy?
I don't think so, because I think it's
I don't
an
think.
American
Yeah, I
sort of
don't think there
thing.
is either.
Yeah, though the Germans, when they kind of first see him properly, are kind of like, wait a minute, is that, because I would assume they would kind of have known about cowboys. The
Sure.
American
Yeah.
movies would have made it to Germany, so they were, are kind of baffled as he walks down the street, spurs clinking, because, I'm a sucker for a good trope,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, and yeah, trying to be the distraction,
Or
you
what would
know.
happen if he stays and then you
Well,
revisit him 20, 30 years in the future, but he's just aged. So he's,
yeah.
middle aged living in the 70s, but he grew up in like the 1850s.
Well, and there was a possibility that could have happened, but the way the story ended up constructing itself, um, there there wasn't time. He has to make certain choices, and though they do said in the final countdown, where the American carrier ends up. And oh, that's a great movie. For those who don't know, an American aircraft carrier ends up back in right before Pearl Harbor, and
Yeah.
it's this whole decision of what do we do? So
Yeah, because you
and
don't want to change the past.
but there's changing the past, and then there's changing the
That's
past.
right. Yeah, what happens if we were ready for Pearl Harbor and just blew them up at that time? Do we enter the war, or do we just be like, oh, we'll go back to
Actually,
what we're
we
doing?
probably would have nothing would have happened. We England would have been lost.
Yeah, it
Germany,
would have been bad.
Italy would have taken over all the areas, and then we would have been sniping back and forth. But yeah, unfortunately, which is a really horrible thing to have to think about, that
Yeah,
Pearl Harbor was an important catalyst, but without it, I mean, we
I
would never have
wonder
gotten
if,
into the war.
just out of curiosity, I wonder if the Japanese, how they look at Pearl Harbor. Did they, especially the older ones, did they look at that as saying like that was a great victory, or is that like a huge mistake that ultimately cost them, so much?
Yeah, when I've heard tell that when and I think it's because when Winston Churchill heard about Pearl Harbor, he opened a bottle of champagne because the Americans would join the war then
Yeah,
finally. So that's
I've heard
interesting.
that. Yeah, I've heard that.
I've never heard kind of what they do. I love how the Germans have handled it, in that they've never kind of tried to sugarcoat their history. I think that is
No, they owned it.
Im- immensely brave,
Yeah.
and especially that history, but that I've always thought, that was amazing. I remember I spent a short time in Germany for a student exchange, and I seem to remember, watching a movie about World War II, and you know, uh, and it wasn't sugarcoating.
Yeah. Well,
So
if you look, like when I was growing up back in the 70s, we were only like 25 years removed from Pearl
yeah,
Harbor, and the feelings of us toward Japan and Germany much harsher back then. But
yeah,
now, it's 50 years after that, which still isn't a ton of time. but a lot of that, we've kind of worked through. Japanese are allies now. Germany's an ally now. It's just, we've worked through that stuff. But I remember a time when I was little when the feelings for those countries were not very positive, at the time, which obviously that caused America a lot of problems with stuff.
Yeah, well, and when they came back with all the manufacturing and stuff, that's interesting because I never really made that connection that there's going to be a lot of older people who remember them being the bad guys. And here they are now.
I mean, especially think about it in the 70s, you had older people that were, they were my age and like the age I'm at right now. Of course, they're going to look at it differently than somebody that was, born and grown up years and decades removed from. They went through it.
Yeah, I mean, someone at that point who had, especially if you had to fight in the Pacific Theater.
Yeah.
Oof, having, but now people, when they think of Japan, they're like, yes, anime and manga.
Well, that's right. That's right. Thank goodness, we've evolved to the point that now we're, much closer as with those countries, because it's definitely benefited us. But there was a time it was a little dicey, and it boggles my mind that it wasn't that long ago. In some ways it seems like it's been 80 years, but then in some ways you're like, it's only been 80 years.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I was talking with my niece about when the Soviet Union, because in the 80s, I mean, I still thought we were going to get nuked.
Oh yeah. I tell the kids that all the time. We used to have those drills where you had to hide under your desk.
Yeah.
Because those desks would protect you against a nuclear weapon.
Actually, but you wouldn't be looking at it. So that's actually a good thing, because if you're too close, that goes really badly. Yeah. So and glass flying. So
that's right. So it might help you a little, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. If you're far enough away, if you're too close, nothing's going to help you.
We do those drills in elementary school, and nobody would even understand what we were doing. We didn't know anything about nuclear weapons or wars at that point. We were just young.
Yeah.
At that point, we were kind of having fun hanging out under our desk.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's interesting how what different generations have to go through.
Yeah.
So what they're going through now, with active shooters and mass murderers and stuff. That's a lot worse.
It's a lot worse. So, this idea, Cowboys versus Nazis, it reminds me of that movie Time After Time. Have you ever seen that one? It's Malcolm McDowell, and he's playing H.G. Wells, and he gets like sent into the future, which is at that time was the 70s.
Yeah.
Right. And as he's using his time machine that he created to go into the future, he picks the 70s. Jack the Ripper jumps in with him for some reason. And then he's in the 70s trying to track down Jack the Ripper.
I can't imagine that I never saw it. I remember
that someone
had a pocket watch that stopped time.
Yeah.
There was one of those, and I can't imagine I didn't see anything that crazy. Malcolm McDowell, we love Malcolm McDowell.
Oh yeah, Malcolm McDowell, he's the best. But yeah, it kind of gives me that vibe, because you've got the person from the past that's out of their element. They're trying to acclimate to the future, but then they've got a villain to fight. In that case, it's a familiar villain. In your case, you'd have a cowboy there and he'd be like, who are these guys?
Yeah, he literally has to get a whole thing. And at one point he's, because the American soldiers are like, wait, you don't know who these people are. I mean, you're here in France, and Hannah's the first one who kind of even goes, because he's like, I'm not sure where I am. And she's like, I'm not even sure if when is a question. Because she kind of immediately sort of puts together that he might be out of time. So just because she's that clever. So
and, I know she sounds like a badass. So that'll be fun.
I love her. And really them two, would be one of the reasons why I wanted to revisit the characters and
Yeah, I love it.
because they're just so sweet together.
Does he find his way back at some point, or is it left with him in Germany?
Nope, he actually kind of has to go back,
Okay.
and because and that's kind of part of the whole story is it's too dangerous for it's not actually too dangerous for him, it's too dangerous for everyone else. So he has to, because he a a good priest in was hiding some Jewish refugees,
Yeah.
a big group of them, and basically the townspeople were really scared, but they weren't going to cross the priest, and the priest was, you know, so there was this whole group of them, and that's he was trying to get them, to the Americans because he was getting sick, and he was pretty much on his last legs. If only he had lasted, 4 6 months or more,
Yeah.
the Americans would have just rolled right in, but nope. As fate would have it, but fate also gave them a little edge, So there's a whole group of Nazi or Jewish refugees hiding from the Nazis, and a troop of Americans who come in to get them out. Again, they were this close to getting them out, and but and then Rowdy and Kincaid, who's the other cowboy, just kind of show up, and Rowdy, they almost went back in the very beginning, and then
Yeah.
they hear Hannah crying because two Nazis and Rowdy's the sheriff. Zoop, he
Yeah.
has to go, and he tells him not to, and he wasn't even gonna, he wouldn't have hurt anyone because he's not inherently he's not a killer.
Right.
He's had to kill, and he doesn't like it, so he doesn't want to have to kill people, especially if he doesn't know. He's like, were these Canadians? Because he was in South Dakota, well, not even South Dakota, the Dakota territories. That was one thing I've realized in my research was, there wasn't a South and North Dakota. There was just the Dakota
The
territory.
Dakotas. Yeah.
Yeah. So so that's kind of the thing with him, is that he's a lawman, but as he saves Hannah, um, he he has to take her to safety, and he gets kind of enmeshed, and he doesn't kind of feel like he can leave just yet. That he has to make sure that people are safe, and he's kind of sweet on Hannah. So and so that's kind of a whole subplot through the whole thing, is them kind of liking each other, but at the same time,
I can't wait to read this. This sounds amazing.
Yeah, and then so they run into the American soldiers, and um that, so he has to kind of help. He kind of he doesn't want to leave.
Yeah.
He can't leave. It's kind of one of those things where you've been dropped into the situation where you have no choice. I mean, your choices are no. I mean, he in his mind, he has no choice.
Right.
He has to stay and help if he can. Because a good man should, if they see injustice, all that evil needs to win is for good men to step aside.
That's right.
So
That's right.
and he can't. Not even if Hannah hadn't been there, he probably, and he had found out the situation, he probably would have stayed.
Yeah.
But in true cowboy form, he
You gotta go.
yeah, and he has to kind of, and he just kind of throws everything a little into chaos because people are trying, the lieutenant who's of the Americans, or just kind of sees them and goes, what wait, what are you doing here? What unit are you with?
I think there'd be a lot of opportunities for those fun type interactions. You know, like the first time he sees a tank and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, we don't even get that far. He, but he doesn't even see cars. Come to think of it, that, but what's, um, I lost my train of thought. So,
well, you know what here's you one for the next one, the further adventures of Rowdy, is what if somehow Hitler goes back to the 1870s, but he gets back there, I think he'd struggle in that time period. What if he ends up he like gives up all the world domination stuff and just becomes like a ranch hand and stuff. And then in modern times, we have pictures of this guy that looks just like Hitler, but he's dressed as a cowboy. Those old black and white. Or like, I
don't know.
When did that happen?
There has to be a comeuppance. I was telling someone recently that as much as I would have liked I think it was Project Valkyrie to succeed, there's a certain warm feeling knowing that when Hitler died, he knew he had been defeated. He knew he was completely.
You're right. Defeated. You're right. Which I think that's why he took his own life. I mean, I know some people dispute that he did that, but he did. I think probably. And I'm sure that's why, because he couldn't handle that. It was too much.
Yeah.
And hoping that we have something similar coming up with this bozo in Russia, but we'll see.
Amen. Let's get rid of people who. I'm not usually one for assassination, but sometimes you need a calm head, and sometimes you need a complete bastard to
you need a Rowdy
problem. You need Rowdy. Yeah, you need a cowboy who has good values and was raised by nuns, no less. So he
earned that white hat.
Yep. And I actually, as I'm thinking of turning into a screenplay, I was thinking, this is what I had forgotten. I didn't want to do too much before he gets to Germany. France. I was like, no more. I want to, kind of dig deeper into the characters and stuff, And by page 15, a Nazi should be dead. So. I mean, because that's what they're there for. I mean, people aren't going to...
It's right there in the title.
You don't want to wait 20, 30 minutes for a dead Nazi. Please.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Yeah, you'd have to, if you were making it into a screen, especially if it's a movie, you got to hit that fairly early in the movie. You might, if it's a TV show, you might get away with like the first episode, he's not even in the future. The whole episode's in the past, and then moving forward. But
I don't know. I think a 90-minute doing a series of movies, you could do it.
You totally could. You totally could.
Well,
minute a page. That's what they say. Minute a page. So you might have to add just a little to it, but you'd have it.
Yeah. The problem as a writer is always trying to figure out how to expand and deepen it without
messing it up,
making it boring. Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. And making it boring, just putting in fodder. So I'm just saying, if you know anyone at Shudder or Netflix, I'll give you half of whatever I make. So
deal. Because I love the idea. I think it to me, well, being honest, every one of your books that we've talked, or novellas that we've talked about on here, I think could be made into something. SuperhorrorMax, Liberty's Run, both of those to me. The Liberty's Run, I think, needs to be a TV show. That just screams action show to me.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Oh, well, I would almost want to do animated, just because.
Animated would be awesome.
It would be so expensive,
Well, I was
You
thinking
have to
kind of a
very,
Last of Us type of vibe, that type of
yeah,
TV show type. You need an HBO or somebody that could put some money behind to do it right.
yeah. That's the thing. I almost think you could do more, and it would be cheaper to do animated. So
I'd love
that's
anime,
what.
but like
Yeah,
adult level anime.
yeah. Like oh, what's that one recently on Netflix with the two sisters? In the that was just it was so good. It was so amazing, and
I
it was
don't know what
based
that
on
is.
a
Is
oh
anime?
yeah. Well, it was American, but it was in a very anime style.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll have to figure out what
Yeah,
it
you have to
is
let
and
me
let
know
you
because
know.
I'll have to check that out. I'm not.
Yeah,
It doesn't sound. It's probably who knows. I may have seen it, but it's not ringing any bells at the moment. But
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
need to.
and one thing that well, no one would really ever get, but is part of it. As I early on while I was doing it, I Tom Hanks was talking about working with Clint Eastwood and on Sully,
Yep,
really great movie. Um, well, a little too
it is a
much on
good
the
movie.
government is bad, but you know, you do kind of have to look into airplane crashes, um, even if everyone survives.
Right.
But one of the things that he talked about is that Clint Eastwood will never yell action because he grew up on, well, for all intents and purposes, he spent his early years on rawhide, and
Right.
if you yell action, the horses all get spooked. So he says, "All right, go ahead."
Oh, I
So
like that.
yeah, so Tom Hanks was talking about how, he would never say action. He'd hear behind him, obviously in some microphone, "All right, go ahead," and then start action. So
I
you'll
love that.
see when he talks to Lulu, instead of telling Lulu to go forward, it's always all right, go ahead.
I love that you put
So
those little things in there. I think not that I'm a writer. I'll leave that to you and Brett. But if I was, that's what I would do. I would put little things that meant something to me all through
yeah,
it. And I love that you do that.
it it really it's the Easter eggs. It's the little touches that make it so amazing. In Almost Famous, they talk about because I think Jason Lee's character is talking to the young reporter about all this kind of big meta stuff about music and stuff, and then Billy Crudup's character sort of stops him and says, "No, you remember that song?" And there's like this woo, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, I remember the woo." Just in the middle of the song, there's a woo, and he's like, "That's what it's about. These little touches." That's when you make it a little better, even though no one's going to get it.
If one of
So,
these gets made into something, will you write yourself into it? Like a little cameo?
oh God, I I would be more than happy to dress up as a cowboy or to be in the background. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if they ask me if do you want to be on the heck yeah, I'm not going to say no, but no, I don't really consider myself as
I
much
mean,
of a
you could totally throw in some shout outs to your other books if this one gets made into a show or a movie. You could totally do that,
yeah,
and nobody get it except for fans.
yeah,
You
yeah.
could give one of the characters a name, that came from a book or something. People would love that type of stuff.
And sometimes, and I think kind of things have happened. There might even be little things like that kind of harken back to the other stuff. I
I
just
like
can't think
that.
of any off the top of my head because
Yeah.
you, they're just little things that I put together. Actually, at the end of Liberty 2, gosh, I don't even know if I added that when I sent it to you, but I actually wrote an entire history of it because when I started talking about SuperhorrorMax, I was removed from like 3 to 5 years from it, and I
Right.
didn't. I had to kind of, what was I thinking? So when I
Yeah, I'd
finished,
forgot there was a gap there for that one. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, because I had gotten that finished, and then I was like, I had been writing other stuff, and there's actually a couple books. I have a couple books as aces up my sleeves. If I ever get that 20-second, you know, I have a one about a punk rock fable set in New York City called "Sorry I Banged Your Mom." And that's why I will never change the title because everyone laughs.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
that's funny.
the son of a uh, punk rock goddess has to quickly find a drummer for the band because they're writing again, and so he's in this beginning relationship. I have no idea how that happened. I'm just like, because I'm not a music guy, I'm a film guy all the way across, but I was just like, well, I
I
wrote
love the ideas that pop in your head, though. That's awesome.
and some things will build like that. I wrote a couple chapters, and then I was kind of like, okay, I guess this is the book. So because I had to follow it to the end, and then I got stuck, and for the longest time because I couldn't figure out how he was finding the drummer, and I started trying to write it, and it didn't work. And Brian Rusher, my man,
Yeah.
was sitting there talking about outside of um, Detroit Tigers Stadium, Comerica. There are these young gentlemen usually who will play drums on an overturned bucket,
Oh,
and he was
okay.
like, "Well, what about that?" And I was like, "Oh my
What
gosh!"
about that?
And literally, it was just like, boom. I had the rest. I had it all written within probably a couple months. It
Love it.
literally was just that was the dam. And sometimes you hit a dam and get stuck and put it aside until you figure it out. So
Yeah.
Brian, I took him out to dinner. So for that one, I
Well, he
was
did.
like,
He earned that dinner.
"Yep." I'm like, I'm not gonna really give you any money, but here I got to take you to dinner.
Take you to dinner anyway. So,
Fair,
so
fair.
where can we find this? Where can we find Cowboys versus Nazis?
So you can go to mythmart.com, like
Yep.
mythologymart.com. So mythmart.com has it for $12.95 in hardback. Um, Amazon has it as well for $12.95, and they also have the Kindle for $2.99.
That's a bargain.
So if you're like,
You know,
but
if you're one of
it's
these punks
really
that want to read with a tablet instead of holding the book.
punk. But then again, I did write a punk rock fable. But yeah, I actually like it because I don't have to worry about having a light on. I
Oh
can
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
can read off my iPad. I do everything on my iPad. It's the
I
best thing.
remember those days having to hide under the cover with flashlight to keep reading because it was past my bedtime. I remember that.
So yeah, you can go there, and if you I actually have two more books coming out this year.
Yeah.
And so if you come to Instagram, Uncle Walter one, it's like Uncle underscore Walter underscore one, or Catmandu for you,
I
you
like
can
that one.
find that. Yeah, that's a whole. Oh, that's a whole thing in itself. Uh, so if you go to those, I always talk about stuff. I'm trying to I can't do too much social media. I have a day job. It's a really nice one. Don't get me wrong.
Well, and you put out a
But
really nice newsletter too, which is time consuming. So it doesn't surprise me that you don't have a ton of time for social media.
well, and unfortunately that kind of fell off the wayside. I
I saw your
I
last one. You were making amends on the last one. I saw that.
unfortunately I'm in a situation right now where I don't really have a good spot to place to write. So I'm trying to get back into the habit, and I have a new book that I'm working on that has it's aliens and clones and all kinds of stuff, and I'm bound and determined to finish it. So I'll have to let you
Oh yeah, yeah.
what
You got
series
an open
because it'll be
invitation.
fun.
You get something you want to talk about, you just holler and we'll get you on.
I greatly appreciate your support.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
We just had
Uh,
Peggy back on for the second time.
oh, I haven't had a chance to watch it. Oh my God, I love Peggy. She is the
Yeah.
nicest person.
Her new
Yeah.
poetry book is it's kind of like the last one. It's hilarious, but kind of bittersweet too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love that about her writing.
And I am not a poetry guy. I'm
Yeah, me
actually
either.
vehemently against poetry, but actually I'm the one who voted. I yeah, I think I was the one who had to judge
You were
that year.
you were the
I,
tiebreaker.
yeah, well, it was between her and Jim Bates, Jim Bates, the Alien of Orchard Lake, really good too. I really like that one as well. But there's something about the way Peggy, writes poetry that even
Yeah,
I was kind of bowled over. And
it's
so,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
So if you go
good.
to mythmart.com and look for Peggy Gerber and Jim Bates, both do really good stuff.
Yeah,
So
and all of that came through that open contract challenge, which is what you
yep,
won. That's how we met. Yeah, and then
yep,
you were we had Melissa Elms. Is that
yep,
right?
yep.
And
She was the first year winner.
you was the first, and then you were year two, right?
Yep,
And then Peggy was year three,
yep.
and then
And
we're waiting to
then,
see who's year four. I think,
well,
right?
year four is Cliff Flint, Promise Rewards,
Oh,
and now
that's
we're
right.
on year five. This is the fifth year.
That's hard to
So,
believe. It's been
and
5 years.
yeah, I won the second year, and I got Dragoon. They had good blackmail photos, and I became the director of the Open Contract Challenge, and I have been ever since. So as well doing other stuff for Dark Myth
Yeah.
publications. So though I won before I became part of them, so I kind of feel like
Yeah,
that.
we should probably get that out there. Yeah, you won, and then they asked you to be a part of
Yeah, it was March, and they were just like, "Hey, do you want to run the new thing?" I'm like, "The new year," and I'm like, "Sure, what the heck,"
Of course
you
I
know.
do.
Well, I wasn't sure because of all the writing.
It's well,
So
it's a lot of work. I mean, just running
yeah,
the contest and judging and doing all and promoting, that's a lot of work. It'd be difficult to keep that going for a long time without passing it to somebody.
yeah, and the thing is that I ended up, because day job, my writing, marketing for my writing, and
These
now I'm
day
working
jobs
with
getting
Dark
in the
Myth.
way of the fun stuff.
I don't get fun stuff. I no, I don't watch TV shows anymore because I like a movie. Then I can get it done and get back to my,
Hey, did you go see Dungeons and Dragons?
Dungeons and Dragons is the best. Oh
I
my
thought so too. I was
God,
so
it
happy
is
with it.
so funny.
Yeah, I
And
was super happy with it.
it's so weird to say that fantasy movie was really funny because we usually see Tolkien. Uh, as much as I love Tolkien, and there are some laughs, Second Breakfast and all that.
Yep.
But what about Second Breakfast? Um, but no, it is so well done, and actually,
So well done.
I love how as a writer, what just looking at the breakdown of how they wrote it, that they have a plan, it goes wrong. They
That's
have
right.
another plan, it goes wrong. That one after another, and even at the end, even when it seems like they've gotten away, then yeah,
Nope. They didn't get
I
away.
yeah, and Sophia Lillis, the redheaded gal with the
Oh
horns.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, she is
She was
amazing.
was it right?
Yep,
The girl from it.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah,
She was
she was
Little
so good.
Beverly.
Well, I got the prequel comic. I got that before the movie. So it kind of introduces the characters a little bit, and it was good.
Yeah,
And then I loved the
yeah,
movie.
yeah. I was really surprised at how well the director is so good. Though, I'm sorry, sir, I forgot your name. I can't off the
But
top of
you're
my
really
head. I can't
good.
think of it. he is fantastic, actually. I mean,
I
it's
mean,
one of those directors that
it
taking.
it definitely made up for all the misses through the years with the Dungeons and Dragons stuff. I mean, between that and the Vox Machina, anime, we're
Yeah.
it's a good time to be a nerd.
Yeah. Well, and actually, if you're a fan, like, because I watched the Saturday morning cartoon, if
Oh, me
you're
too.
there's even an Easter egg for the Saturday morning cartoon.
I love that.
And
I
I
know.
was
I was
just like,
freaking out.
oh, see, that's the best.
They've got a new comic book out starring those characters,
Oh my God.
and it's
They,
written kind of in the style of the cartoon. I've read the first
yeah,
couple of issues. It's pretty good, but it's basically like watching that '80s cartoon.
I remember it, but I haven't watched it probably since the
I
80s.
got
So
the DVD for Brett that had the whole series on DVD when
yeah,
he was pretty young at the time, and I couldn't really get him into it. But then when he got older, he kind of found it again and watched it and loved it. Because
yeah,
he's got a D&D group that meets weekly now, and they play, and he DMs for
nice.
them. And there's nothing
That's
better than
cool.
getting a really consistent, good, fun D&D group or role playing group, whatever the game is. But
Yeah,
those are hard to find.
I'd like to do it again. I did some in high school, but I
Yeah.
haven't really done it since. Uh, I spend too much time, maybe, or enough time working on, my writing and
Well,
stuff, and my
you're
art,
in the
and
same boat I'm in. I've got a day job. My free time, I'm dealing with the podcast. Your free time, you're dealing with books and writing and that
yeah,
stuff. And it just doesn't leave a lot of extra time. Our playtime is doing this.
exactly. Yeah, and I don't regret it. But
Me
there
either.
have been more than a few times that 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, I'm editing, or I'm doing, because now I've gotten into artwork, which is really weird for me. So
I bet you're good at it too. You're very artistic. So I doesn't or creative. I think you'd be a good. Do you paint or you draw? Which do you do?
well, it turned out to, I actually do more. I got Photoshop, which really
Oh
helped.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. My
So it's
wife does
really,
some of that.
yeah. So it's really taking stock photos and turning them into an art. So it's kind of collagey in a
Yeah.
way. And the book that's coming out in November, Catmandu, I'm going to do all the art. Well, I'm going to have like realistic pictures of there's cats and stuff in it. And so I was
Love it.
like, I'm going to do all that. Though I started doing it and immediately went, okay, I need to learn more. I need to be better at Photoshop. But now I am at the point where I got to start making the you know the story. The story was easy. That I had that done in about 2 seconds. Because it's going to be a shorter book. It's
Right.
going to be more like a gift book,
Yeah.
stocking stuffer. But doing the art, oh boy, I spent many, many months learning art. So,
I
and
mean, yeah, but how great is that? Good for you.
it has really been so much fun. It
Yeah.
has really been, and the Catmandu, which is CATMANDU, for those who are interested, is a really kind of positive, sort of fun stuff. You know,
Yeah.
it's trying to, you know, it's trying to keep get everyone to smile and kind of enjoy life. In this weird little broken world. So
Oh, I love it. I
yeah,
love it.
and yeah, Kathmandu, which is the cat god, the cats of the world called down the cat god Marathani because they were worried about humans and they had also never been fed before. Well, the
Mm.
second one was a bit of an exaggeration, but the first one was, ooh, wow, yeah, problem. So, and actually tells that Catmandu will tell that story of why
Love it.
Taco the cat, said that's it. We need help.
Is Kathmandu made in your likeness?
No, actually, it's a.
Because that would have been
Turned out it
cool.
was. Well, it's actually an English short-haired. It was the stock photo that was doing exactly what I needed it to do, because I wanted him to be looking a little godlike, and I found a hand, a little paw with the toe beans, because it's the stars in his toe beans.
Yeah.
And I put on a saffron robe because that felt like it was enough mystical, without being too. So I just put it all together and figured it out, and that's what a lot of my images are. These days are just I conglomerate stuff together, and it was literally because that cat was doing exactly what I needed it to do. So
Love that. I think what you're telling me is that we're going to get to talk at least 2 more times this year.
God, I hope so. Yeah. Yeah, there's going to be some really good stuff on the way. And in the meantime, you can get Cowboys versus Nazis even for $2.99. But the hardback is really nice, actually. So it's a novella, so it's only like 60, 70 pages. But
That's if you buy the trade paperbacks, soft or hardcover for comic books, that's about what they are. And that, if you're paying $12.50 or $12.95, whatever it is, that's a lot cheaper than what you're going to pay for those books. Those books are like 20 bucks as a soft cover.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a pretty good deal.
And I kind of was okay. I really like the idea of a hardcover, because soft covers, well, we all know how, small soft covers get squished and bent. And this way,
to be a nice addition to a bookshelf.
Yeah. And it's a rip-roaring adventure. Oh my God, it is so much fun. Rowdy is trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And it's just nods to all the cowboy trope, a lot of the cowboy tropes. And, and it's a hell of a good ride.
Well, Walter, as always, thank you for coming on the show. You're one of my favorite authors, especially of the recent stuff. Yeah, I just think your stuff is so good. It's a matter of time. We're going to see bigger and better things from these books. I have no doubt. I just think you're so talented. So, yeah, thanks for coming back on. We will keep doing it as long as you keep writing.
And I will always come back. Always.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I'm going to hold you to it.
I make that promise right now. So I will always come back, and because I always like talking with you anyways. So.
Yeah, we always have a good time. Well, so let's wrap up like we usually do, Walter. Where can we find you? You gave some of the Instagram stuff, but run through it again on social media. And do you have separate ones for the books?
Well, I do have a website, waltergesselman.com, but I'm really on Instagram. One only has so much time, so I've been really good about updating Instagram. So the latest information is always best to go there. Either Uncle Walter 1 with underscores, or Catmandu for you, CATMANDU, and it's the FORYOU. So it's old man style. So
well, if you just put your name in Instagram, it brings both accounts up.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah,
I never searched for myself, I guess. But
I can't remember what I searched for you the other day, but I don't remember why. But it did. It brought both of them up. I just put your name in.
Thank God.
Right up. So, yeah.
You will find so much stuff to entertain you, and there's so much more to come. There is so much more to come.
I love it. So, well, thank you, Walter. Let's do this again in the fall once your next one drops.
Absolutely.
We'll do it again.
Thank you, and thanks all for listening. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. And thanks, Mike.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, hold on just a second.
Yep.
Our good friend Walter Esselman, in the book or the novella is Cowboys versus Nazis. Please do yourself a favor and do me a favor and support Walter. He is crazy talented as a writer. I think we're going to see some of his stuff on the big or the small screen at some point. It's that good. And check out some of his earlier books. This is the third time we've had Walter on the program. I'm sure we'll have him again in the future. I love talking with him. He's such a good friend. But let's support him. You know, it's not easy writing your own stuff and then promoting it, getting it out there for people to purchase. It's a lot of work. Walter puts the time in, so please give him your support. And I mean, it's Cowboys and Nazis. You can't beat that. I've always been a Western fan. Tombstone's my favorite. Magnificent Seven's definitely up there. Love the spaghetti Westerns. You know, if you want to talk John Wayne, El Dorado was my favorite. My dad's was McClintock. But there's a ton of good Westerns out there. That's just a few. So maybe this will be our next great Western, but also with that, World War twist. Should be pretty good. Thank you guys for tuning in again this time. If you're finding us for the first time, we could really use your support. It's easy to do. It's free. If you prefer to watch, our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Just hit that subscribe button. Really would help us out. If you prefer to listen, whatever application you're listening to your podcast on, just subscribe there. That'll help us as well. We are closing in like probably next week or maybe the following week. We're going to hit our 600th episode, and you can find all of those audio and video on our website, meistercon.com. So definitely check us out there as well. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody.